Hey gang, I'm Kevin, and welcome back to another episode of A Tiny Revolution. Reason we're a day late is because I'm trying this new thing out with Restream, where I am recording the conversations I'm having with my friends, and then posting those in addition to the podcast, because multiple streams, trying to get this shit out there more. And so, we just took an extra day to get it out here. But I'm excited to bring you this conversation with my friend, Sarah Jane Case. She's the writer and creator of the Honest Enneagram. She's an Enneagram host. She hosts an Enneagram summit every year that I've been a part of twice. It's super fun. And today in the conversation, we really get into what the hell is the Enneagram for people who have never heard of it, and maybe if you've escaped the latest, when progressive Christianity almost converted to the Church of Enneagram. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, but like one of the things like I love to bring up is that the Enneagram is not a tool to show you who you are, but to show you the ways that you get caught up. And Sarah Jane Case is an expert in this field and really uses the Enneagram, and she'll talk about this too, to show how to you thought you had to do that. You thought you had to be this way. So for me, being an Enneagram 8, you thought you had to be angry all the time. You thought that you had to be hard and defend yourself all the time. So the Enneagram showed me, yeah, those are my tendencies. Those are the ways I get caught up. And also, this is the ways that I can learn to be soft with myself. So I'm really pumped to share this conversation with you, so I hope you enjoy it. Before we get into that, a couple of announcements that if you're listening to this when this comes out on October 6th, we're having a little new moon ritual tonight. You can click the link in the bio to go there, or maybe if I figure out how to do cards on YouTube, maybe one will pop up, maybe. This Saturday, also, the Crowded Table, which is the amazing online community that I host on Patreon and curate on Patreon. We're having a Saturday gathering at 10 a.m. Pacific and 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And we're just going to get together. We're going to have some music. We're going to have some time of reflection. Because we're experimenting right now. We're seeing what feels good. And so you can expect some delicious music. You can expect some meditation and some prayer. You can expect a sermon, because I love preaching. So you can catch that right here on, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to this in the podcast, you can go over to YouTube and check that out. And if you're curious about the Crowded Table, both as an online community and what it could look like for you to join that, you can just go to patreon.com/thekevingarcia and learn. Because not only, are you supporting this podcast and this YouTube channel and making more content accessible for queer people of faith the world over, but you're also, girl, you're helping pay my bills, and that's real helpful, let me tell you. But along with helping pay my bills, you're also engaging with new community. You're getting to meet people who are on the same exact life journey as you are, probably deconstructing and reconstructing. And if you found your way into my corner of the internet, maybe you're a little woo-woo, maybe you're a little witchy-wah, maybe you love Jesus, but you don't want to call yourself a Christian anymore. Whatever it is, you're welcome at the Crowded Table. So please go over to patreon.com/thekevingarcia and you can join us there. I think that's all the announcements for this week. I love you, and let's get into the show. This is my conversation with my friend Sarah Jane Case. I just woke up from a nap literally 60 seconds ago.
Yay, I love that for you.
I feel very good. I feel very refreshed, and still got a little of the sleepies in my eyes, but we're working through it, and I'm just so pleased I get to see you.
Yeah, you too. And I am pleased that you took a nap. That makes me feel so happy.
Listen, the rest game is the only game I play now. It's the game
inspiration.
It's because literally it was a quarter till, and I'm I just need 10 minutes. I just need 10 minutes. And man, it's a gift. Anyways, we're here to talk about you and your work and your life, because you're Sarah Jane Case. You are the curator of the Enneagram and Coffee Instagram Chanel. You are a writer, a summiteer, creator of summits. And I also want to know, how do you introduce yourself to people these days?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I think you did better job than I do. I I would say author of in Honest Enneagram and host of the Enneagram and Coffee podcast. Those are the two. Yeah, human trying to figure it all out.
Mm-hmm. And we kind of got connected because of like Enneagram stuff. And what I think is really interesting is that like I think I don't know, like if like where I don't know where the conversation around the Enneagram is these days, because like my toolbox is just continuing to expand, and I think that like uh anyway, for someone who maybe doesn't even know what an Enneagram is, and they'll say like an Enneagram, what's that? No, but tell me about how you got into the Enneagram, and like how do you define the Enneagram anyways?
Yeah. So, my current definition is that the Enneagram gives us 9 unique things we thought we had to be our whole life, right? So it's like this picture
Yeah.
into you thought you had to be strong, you thought you had to be happy. Oh, you thought you had to be perfect? Like this kind of invitation into what if you didn't have to be that? What if you
Mm-hmm.
get to just be like whatever you happen to feel to be at this moment and you're free to express yourself in whatever way. And yeah, so that's kind of how I think of it. It's essentially a personality typing test. It's broken down into 9 distinct types. However, the major difference, right, is it tells you who you thought you had to be, the behavior, like
Mm-hmm.
why you're doing what you're doing instead of just the actions that you're taking. And yeah, so I found it like most of us do. I think someone saw my type pattern in what I was
Mm-hmm.
doing or saying, and they were like, "Whoa, have you heard of the Enneagram?" And
Mm-hmm.
I like, "I'd like for you to know your type."
It's like
Um,
I'm really curious to know like how you move through the world with
yeah.
the Enneagram, because you're driving me insane and I need to figure
Ex
out why.
Yep. And so, I took the test. I typed as an Enneagram 2 and loved that because I was like, "I am so warm and loving and,
That's
like,
so kind.
I'm, like, so self-sacrificing." And, then I read the Enneagram Type 7 description, and I was like, "Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's me." That's, like it honestly felt like someone had written my journals out and followed me around and documented my life, and creeped me out, but also felt delightful. And
Mm-hmm.
I second guessed myself a lot. It took me like 2 years to kind of come back to 7 and to really own that. And in that journey, I discovered all of the types. I was coaching at the time, so I was seeing it in my clients, and I was like, whoa, these
Mm-hmm.
patterns are so fascinating and so interesting and help us to go deep so much more quickly.
Mm-hmm. Because like I'm in the same boat. Like a lot of the people I work with, they have like the Enneagram, like they have that in their tool belt coming in. So it's like I don't even got to unpack that,
Mhm.
which is really fun for me. I'm just like, if you're aware of this pattern, because I think this is, I don't know, like because like I don't want to say this. I will say for myself, coming from the Christian world, like where like we tend to like grab onto systems that work and really like institutionalize them in some way.
Mm,
I feel like over the past like less so now maybe, but just like there was a good minute where the like it was like the gospel of the Enneagram was the thing. And I remember so many people making excuses for their bad behavior based on their Enneagram type. And I'm like,
mhm,
girl,
mhm.
girl.
Yes, and, like, that culture too around there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it, and you're
Mm-hmm.
failing if you do it this way, or you're a good person if you do it this way, and, like, this, like, energy, like, we can make anything a religion if we want to, and, oh, people do it with the Enneagram all the time, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really about like, the Enneagram's just this map. It's like, "Hey, look, here's some information. Here's a map of, like, some growth you can do," and
Mm-hmm.
then, like, it's up to you how you decide to use it. There's no, like, failing at the Enneagram. There's no, like
And there's also no winning either, you
yeah,
know?
there's no sinning either. Like, it's just
Hello.
like, you can't mess it up. It's just your journey, it's your growth, and that's your timing.
Yeah. And I think like someone I can't remember who said it, but just like the Enneagram shows you where you're getting caught up.
Mhm.
Not necessarily who you are, but just like it just shows you like for me, like discovering the Enneagram, I started off thinking I was a 7 because I just love fun and moving around and doing all the things. And then my friend,
Mhm.
like we're driving from like like a boba tea place, and he hands me Richard Rohr's text, the Christian a Christian perspective, and he said you should flip to the part like on eights. And as I was reading it, it was like the same experience as you, just like, oh no, someone seen what I've been doing, and it really just
Yeah.
like it kind of like first like it really does like I think it's very interesting how the initial reaction to being seen at first is fear.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think sometimes with the Enneagram especially, it's so innate, right? Like these it's ultimately our coping mechanisms. Like this is how we've
Mhm,
survived. And it's just second nature sometimes to where when it's pointed out to us as this thing that doesn't always serve us, isn't always working for us,
mhm,
it feels like, but that's what I know. Like that's the thing I know. And how did you know I was doing that? It just feels, like, really intense, and I think for a lot of us, we think that's the good way to be. Like, well, this is what a good person does. A good person, like,
mhm,
fights. A good person, like, stands up for themselves, or a good person thinks positively against all odds, you know? And
mhm,
like, also yes, yeah, sometimes that's great. Sometimes that's our greatest asset and our greatest strength, and then sometimes it's not working for us. And sometimes when used in the wrong context or used too much or too hard, too
mhm.
often, it's not serving us and serving our relationships.
Ding dong. Because that's really what it
Mhm.
comes down to is like you got like, and I think that's really the tool is like at least for me, I also saw the pattern of just like how when I was typing people left and right once I discovered the Enneagram to like
Oh.
say, "Oh, you're this way for sure," and then like um rather than I was like, "Okay, let me," it's like when people hear that I'm a Scorpio, I'm just like, "Listen, I know Scorpios get a bad rap for so many
Mhm.
reasons, but I'm not an asshole because I'm a Scorpio. I'm an asshole
Mhm.
sometimes because I have a traumatic childhood growing up. It's
Right.
different, you know?"
Right. And I think that I love that you said that because when we turn the Enneagram into just like, you're such a number, like you're such a 6 or you're such a 7, like what we're doing in that moment is we're ignoring, we're losing our
Mhm.
compassion, right? Like, and I've been there, I will probably be there
Guilty.
again sometime.
Guilty.
Yeah, 100%. Even with myself, even to myself. Um, but if we use it for its language, right? If we come in and we go,
Mhm.
well, what if I describe what being such a 7 means right now? It's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, you learned that, like, no one's gonna look out for you, so only you can look out for yourself, and you're terrified of being trapped in emotional pain because when in your childhood, you went through so much that you learned how to be happy even in the spite
Mhm.
of deep emotional pain and neglect." Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, you're hurting, little one. Like, you're
Yeah.
hurting.
What's the journey for you been like as I don't know, like, because you've like you work with this shit all the time. It's so up
Mhm.
close. So like for you, what is a personal practice of I mean, I guess like what are your personal practices around like keeping yourself centered and grounded?
Mhm. Well, I will go back to real quick just at the
Oh
Enneagram
yeah.
as a map because I like that you said what are your practices because the Enneagram isn't the practice, right? Like the Enneagram
Mm,
is the map of what the practices should be for me. So,
yeah.
as a 7, I have, like, the tendency to stay really busy, to fill my time. I have a hard time sitting with negative emotions.
Mm,
I, struggle to go deep with people if I don't trust them to be light with my pain. And so, my practice has been crying on the floor.
yeah. That's it.
And, like, letting it happen and letting my husband see me there and not
Mm,
just doing not what I used to do is, like, go to the bathroom and cry, wipe my eyes, wash my face, and go out, and no one ever knew, and, like, letting him be there with me, letting him support me.
mhm,
And then I am just this week, so I feel kind of like an imposter saying, like, "I do this," but I started this week, and I'm very proud of myself. Just time of doing nothing. So I'll go out on the
yes.
porch. Yes, and I just set a timer, like an analog I have, like, an analog timer, and I set it the first day for 5 minutes and did nothing, the second day for 7, we're up to 12 minutes now, and it's like, yeah, I don't have to meditate. That's the other thing is,
Mhm,
like, I can get really good I can meditate well, right? Like, I can still get kind of accomplishy about a
mhm,
meditation, but sitting still in silence, like, that is so soothing to my nervous system. And it lets me be like, "Oh, I can move slower than I think I have to. I can
Mhm.
be here in this moment." My mind can wander and it can come back. It can slow down, and I can just be in my body in this like actual moment.
Mhm.
Sevens, a lot of us do this. Sevens, we like live in the future. We're like, "What's next? What's coming up next? All of my joys in the future." The happy place is the here and now. Like, how can I appreciate the good that's
Mhm.
here instead of thinking about the good that's to come? And so that's definitely one of my major practices.
Mm.
I'm also trying Qigong.
Yeah, you better move that energy around your body. So, yeah,
Yeah, I'm just trying out.
for someone who doesn't know qigong, like, just basic definition.
Oh, I don't know if I'm qualified. I can say but it is basically just moving energy through your body. You kind of do like
Mhm.
tapping movements and
Mhm.
motions that you do that kind of get your energy flowing. And I think of it as like getting your blood circulating because I'm
Yeah.
not very spiritual in
Mhm.
that way. But yeah, it just kind of like moves some shit around.
Let me tell you what, like, whether it's literally if it's me moving my mental energy and my focus around the body or whether it's actual, like, the magical dust of the universe, I don't really give a fuck anymore.
Right, right.
Like, that's my deal. I'm just like, I can't tell you what's actually happening. I can only tell you how it makes me feel.
Yep, yeah, same. And Qigong feels good. It feels real good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love that you were saying, like, the practice of silence is very hard, especially
Mhm.
modern world, especially, like, when everybody's timer is their phone and everyone's alarm
Mhm.
clock is their phone and everybody's
Mhm.
everything. Um, so being able to, I don't know, like, to slow down, like, I didn't learn how to be still, like, probably until, like, because first time we had a talk, like, it was
Mhm.
pre-pandemic. I think your book was just
Mhm.
getting ready to launch and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so I bet, like, at least for me, like, I had to learn how to be with myself
Mhm.
and not only be with myself, but enjoy being with myself. Otherwise, like, I was gonna die. It was like, especially
Mhm.
in isolation, that practice of being still and just
Mhm.
listening to your breath or nothing.
Mhm. Yeah,
Incredible.
I it wasn't until the pandemic that I was able to, like, actually stay home all day by myself.
Mhm.
I had, like, never done that. I'd never gotten comfortable
Same.
doing that, and then I was like, "Oh, this is actually feels really good." I feel calmer and happier and more at ease, like,
Mhm.
it could have been this simple the whole time, but I was so I don't know, like, I know this what the Enneagram says it is. It's like you're so
Mhm.
scared of feeling all of your emotions that you don't wanna
Mhm.
be at home, but Um, yeah, I just felt like I had to
Mhm.
constantly be doing or entertaining or everything that I do had to have a reason behind it.
Mhm. I also relate to, like, I like the feeling of I wanna get out of the house. I
Mhm,
think in some ways there's this that's the capitalism talking. It's like you gotta go out and accomplish something
mhm,
and go somewhere, like, go to the co-working space and do the work there, and I'm like, I mean, I could,
mhm,
and, but, like, especially, like, I remember when everything set in and I was living on campus at my grad school in this tiny ass apartment by myself with I didn't have my dog at that point. Like, I didn't realize, like, how I was just not addicted to people, but I had never had to do it really by
mhm,
myself.
mhm,
Um, and that was the space that kinda just, like, kicked it and was like, "Okay, if I wanna feel better, I have to take responsibility for I have to take responsibility for myself." What a concept, you know?
mhm. Well, and I think, like, um, some of us, if we think of Enneagram terms, like 3s,
Mhm,
7s, and 8s, we're assertive, we like to take action, we're forward thinking.
mhm,
Action is not our problem. Like, we can get things done. But,
mhm,
like, slowing down, being present,
mhm,
being comfortable with stillness and rest, that takes practice. Like, that's our practice. And for other
mhm,
types, it's taking action, putting themselves out there, being seen. That's not our problem.
mhm,
We have to, like, work out that other muscle of, like, being still,
mhm.
being here.
Yeah. So, again, this is a good question, and I guess, like, for me, like, 'cause I tend to work with, a lot of I don't know what it is about fours coming to me. I have a lot of four clients. They come in
I
all
love
the
a
time.
4.
I love a four too. Also, all of my ex lovers have been fours, and so it's just like, like my theory is eights have trouble feeling things. So who better to learn feelings from than someone who cannot stop feeling everything? And a four, like, like lives in the fantasy, and like to learn better how to get
Mhm.
shit done than somebody who cannot stop getting shit done.
Yeah, and 4s look for a rescuer. They're looking for someone
Hmm.
to come in and save them and to take care of things, and, ooh, 8s are good at that. It really play it's like the perfect feeding for each other's mechanisms for sure.
For everyone's ego, because I know that I have like,
Yeah,
I because like I love being the rescuer. I love being right. I like it's like,
yeah.
and everyone like will applaud me for that. That's the problem. That's the
Mhm,
problem. It's like, girl,
mhm.
you got to save yourself first.
That's the thing is, like, with the Enneagram too, is we essentially have trained everyone in our lives to like us for these things. Like, "Oh, everybody in my life, like, looks to me to be the positive one, looks to me to be happy and to see opportunity. Everyone's looking for you to be the one who can handle it, who can take care of things, who's gonna speak up." And it's like we're having to retrain the people who are around us
Hmm.
to get comfortable with like, "Well, yeah, sometimes I'm gonna take a nap, and, like, you're not
Oh
gonna be able to
yeah.
get a hold of me. I'm not gonna be there for you in that moment," or, sometimes, like, I'm gonna cry on the floor, and you're gonna hold me and tell me it's gonna be okay."
Hmm.
And, like, it's an adjustment for all of us.
Yeah. I'm hoping that's the way that just community will continue to move. I
Mhm.
think that we're finally recognizing that capitalism and celebrity is not really serving us anymore. And that
Mhm.
just because you have a follower count doesn't mean that you're necessarily a healthy person at all, or
Yeah,
somebody who's
yeah.
worthy of being followed. Um,
Mhm.
because I'm really starting to see like the people who I am following and getting to know is like the people who are slowing down. The people like I am starting to do way less. Because I was just thinking, should I do a whole retreat? I'm like, no, because you're launching a cohort right now. Maybe you should do one thing at a time, silly goose.
Mhm. Oh my gosh, yes. I took an Instagram sabbatical this summer, and, like, 4 of my friends were doing it at the exact same time. It's like
Hmm.
we all just, like, got off Instagram all at the same time. Like, there's something moving where it's like,
Mm,
we're all just what does it feel like to be here? What does it feel like to not be on our phone? What does it feel like
mm,
to be in our life and in this moment?
yeah. I'm thinking
Mhm.
I need to. That would be a delicious time to see, 'cause especially I think once the I'm gonna experiment with this idea because if I have my cohort all squared away for the winter, then like I can take like a month off and not. Ooh, wow! I just got
Yeah,
really excited. November, you're not gonna. I don't know if y'all are gonna see me on the internet in November. That
I
might be
love
really
this.
nice. Holy shit! This is actually a really good idea. You heard it here first, everyone. I'll
Yeah,
probably
we
like
and
if any. Go ahead.
no, go ahead, I wanna hear.
Oh, I was just, I was about to just like keep on jawing on about nothing, probably.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think that that's, like, some healthy 8 shit right there. That's some, like
Yeah.
yeah, that I mean, that's it.
Mm-hmm. And all like
Mm.
I feel very lucky because uh now we're all kind of getting to the point where it's just like at least like a couple years ago it was like all about building the brand, and I'm like, you guys,
Mhm.
I think I had it wrong. you know just like I think,
Yeah.
in fact, like I know I had it wrong. It's like weird. I'm finding much more peace and joy in the fact that I can say no when I need to and build space out for people. Like that's more fun to me
Mhm.
than the numbers.
Mhm, mhm. I think for me, for so long, it was like, "What am I building? What am I building? What am I building?" And then there was, like, a switch this year that went off that was like, "Wait, why am I doing this? Who are the people behind this? What is the goal here? Am I working just to work, or am I working to live the life that I wanna live? And am I working to
Mm,
heal people in these certain ways?" Like, I wanna make sure that I'm not just like, I'm supposed to post 5 days a week, so I'm posting 5 days a week. I wanna, like, actually be posting things that I think will, like, help people and support people
mm-hmm,
and, like, remember that there's humans back there,
mm-hmm.
um, that I'm making all of this shit for.
Yeah. And I think I also I was in the same way. I'm like, I don't want to just produce for the sake of like it's
Mhm.
something I think about, like it's like, yeah, if you want to do this kind of work on the internet, and this is also like, where you're going to find your people or your group.
Mhm.
Sometimes like the rhythm and the discipline is not my favorite word. Well, like I guess like for the things that I don't like, I call it discipline. For the things I love, I call it devotion.
I love that.
So just like it's like social media is a discipline that I have to keep up with, where I'm like, all right, like,
Mhm.
and it's still to this day makes me mad that I can spend 2 minutes on just like a post. I did posted me with some eyeshadow on, and I'm just like, genderqueer idea. Here you go. And
Mhm.
that one's blowing up. And the one before that was like, I really thought about this really deep thought. Nothing.
Yeah.
It blows me
I
the fuck away every time.
I know, I don't understand the algorithm, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm just gonna I eventually I was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna keep showing up and we'll
Hmm.
see." I tried Reels and the Instagram didn't want me to do Reels. It told me no.
No, they told me no to. They're like, no reels for you. And it just, and the people who do TikTok, like that's a world. Like I have friends who like are like that's their biggest platform is they have like
Mhm,
24,000, fifty
mhm,
thousand people like engaged on TikTok. And
mhm.
I'm like, how?
I know, I know. I've officially become old.
This is how we know.
This is how we know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because you're what? Like we're both like early 30s, right?
Oh, I'm
Uh,
35, yeah.
I'm gonna be 32 in a couple months.
Mhm,
And I also noticed like over the pandemic, like I didn't drink a whole lot of alcohol over the course of pandemic. So like that was not my problem. Mine was smoked a lot of weed. Um, still am. So like, whether it's a problem or not, look at the bank account. You tell me. Ayo. Um,
yeah.
but I promise that this had a point to it. What was it? I don't know.
Oh.
Okay, so I want to know for you, as the book has been out, as you have evolved as a woman on the internet and also just as a woman in real, because like I feel like what I've noticed in you is like you seem really grounded. You seem like
Mhm,
very comfortable in your body. What's what do you think like how have you changed since like even the book's been published, and how like has your
mhm.
work changed since you started?
Yeah, thank you. I will say that quarantine shifted me significantly, and, I went through, like, a big loss last year, like, my dad
Mm.
passed away, took his own life, and, like, that was,
Fuck.
like yeah, I mean, that's it, that's like, fuck, and,
Mhm.
um, that threw me into the depths of, like, "Oh, we're gonna feel this, we're gonna go here,"
Mm.
and so I think in that, honestly, I think that was the major turning point was, like, quarantine slowed me down because
Mhm.
I was, like, deeply quarantined, um, and then that happened with my father, and that, like, threw me into the throes
Mhm.
of grief, and I think in that grief, like, that kind of pulled that 7 energy of, like, I'm okay, everything's okay, I'm a good, everything's good," and, really just, like, forced me into, like, "Well, let's look at this. Let's go in
Mhm.
here and, like, feel your feelings and think about how you felt about your dad's life and his death and, like, your life
Mhm.
and your inevitable death. Like,
Listen, nothing
just
will get you
handle
more
it.
nothing will get you more sober about the fact that your time is limited, like
Mhm,
the death of a parent. And
mhm,
I lost my dad 3 years ago,
mhm,
and it I think you probably got real clear too. It's just like my dad died at age 59. And so I'm
mhm.
like,
Yeah,
I'm 31. If like heaven forbid I only have
mhm.
that much time on the earth, like what have I been doing?
Yeah, yeah, and I think for me, it was just, like, a lot. Like, the answer to that, like, I was like, "Is this the life I wanna be living? Is this the kind of content I wanna be creating? Is this, like, the impact I wanna leave?" Like, 'cause I had to think about, like, what was my dad's legacy? And, like, he
Mm,
he was, like he had a lot of shit, and so,
same.
um his legacy isn't what I want my legacy to be, so I had to think, like, what do I wanna leave behind if I am dust? Like, what is the change I'm gonna leave on people? And, like, yes, I enjoy creating, like, fun, playful content, but, like, what if I healed people instead? What if I not that I'm
Mm,
healing anyone, but, like, I'm a part of their journey to healing, part of their
Right.
journey to, like, releasing shame and releasing pressure to, like, perfect themselves constantly, and,
Mm,
if I could just see them in their most vulnerable form and then love them there, like, that's kind of how it shifted.
mm, that's it. And that,
Mhm.
like, I think, like, what if I healed people instead? Like, that's really, like, I think there's a shift, and then this is maybe also something me and Jamie Lee Finch were talking about this too, the, like, I feel like there is, like, a whole conscious collective of just like, "Oh, this is not just about playing the capitalism game."
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of us at first, like, we were that what we were doing, helping people while still paying the bills. And now I think it's almost reversed. I'm just like, the bills will take care of themselves one way or the other. If my
Mhm.
priority can be my personal health, like when I prioritize my health and my well being,
Mhm.
everything else fell into place.
Mhm.
And I think that was the big thing for me is like, I don't I don't go out late night no more. Like, that's just not every now and again. But let me tell you what, the one time I did go out, I had like big five honking glasses of rosé, and I woke up the next day with heartburn from hell because all that
That's
sugar.
the truth.
I'm like, is this the
Mhm.
life I want to live right now at age 31? No, no, I don't.
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
but like the prioritization of personal health and not just like physical health, but like I think like spiritual, creative health of just like, I don't want to do anything I don't want to do anymore. Like
Mhm.
if at all, I mean, taxes, okay, fine. I'll do that if I have to. But the last president hasn't paid any taxes. So I'm just like, I'm fine.
Yeah, I mean, like, even that, we can figure it out.
Yeah. Um, but I think like that's what I've noticed for a lot of people is like, we're no longer willing to sacrifice our health for capitalism anymore.
Mhm.
We're no longer
Yeah.
like willing to sacrifice our own self development while we're trying to develop other people.
Right, and I think that's a big thing when I'm getting geared up to write a second book, and in that
Yes.
process.
Come on, second book.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm excited, and I think, like, the process, I've had to acknowledge, like, if I'm gonna write, I have to live, right? Because I can't write from
Bingo.
from no inspiration, right? I have to, like, pause, I have to go look at things, I have to experience things just to have anything to possibly say, and I think it's the same thing for healing, like, if I'm not actively in the process for healing, then, like, where's my healing energy gonna come from? Like, at some point, we're just making online
Mhm.
courses, but we're not like, there's a difference between an
Woo!
online course that's aligned and an online course that's, like, actually intended. You're thinking about, "Who are these people? How am I transforming them? How can I support them? How am I guiding them?"
Mhm.
Versus, "I'm gonna charge this much money, I'm gonna get this many people in the door, and then this is gonna be my marketing mechanism." That's a completely different energy, and we can do
Mhm.
both, and there's nothing wrong with either of those, in my opinion. You can
Mhm.
do either of them. One of them feels really good
Mhm.
and is more supportive to you and to others, and the other one, it's a lot more stressful and
Mhm.
it's a lot less aligned and a lot less connected to.
Yeah, and it's like I feel so much of what you're saying is like neither one of these things is necessarily wrong because at the end of the day, we're all in the clutches of capitalism. We all are trying to pay our bills.
Right.
And I think we live under this illusion and have been living under the illusion for so long that the hustle was the only way to make it work.
Mhm.
And the hustle burns us out. The hustle
Mhm.
like you like said, just like trying to be good, trying to be the best versions of ourselves, rather than realizing that the best version of yourself is the one who is right here talking, the one who is listening to
Mhm.
this right now, the one who is breathing. That's the best version of you. And whether or
Mhm.
not you believe that, it does not change the fact that you are. And
Yeah, like,
mm, that changes
yeah, like,
everything.
what if, like, you're fine? What if, like, right now in this moment, like, you're totally okay? There's nothing to work on, there's nothing to fix. You're good. You're fine.
Hmm.
Everything's fine. Like, that feels scary for some reason.
I think because for those of us who grew up with any like if you grew up in America in the 21st century, like you have some kind of like residual trauma either from culture, from
Mhm.
religion or something. We all have something like that and like for those of us who have trauma like that,
Mhm.
peace sometimes feels like a trigger.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just to like the trigger of let me get ready, let my body
Mhm.
tense up again, let my breath get shallow because I gotta gotta get that oxygen
Mhm.
in the bloodstream. Like we don't know the
Yeah.
difference between like you know uh the bear in the woods and a bill on the table.
Mhm.
You know.
Mhm. Yeah. And, like, am I yeah, and, like, is it okay to feel this much good? Is it okay to feel this rested, this happy, this safe? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's gonna happen? Like, I need to be, like, constantly know where the threat is coming from and from happening so that I don't get caught off guard or something. But what if
Yeah.
you're just if you're just here, if you're just in your body right now, there's, like, a lot of joy there. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of good, like, wherever you're listening to a podcast right now, like, you're probably okay. You're okay right now.
Ding
You're
dong,
safe.
y'all.
You're safe. Right here,
And
right
it's
now,
like
you're safe.
and what is so interesting is that if one can recognize that where you are is right here and now, and really the thoughts you're having, like the feeling you have, like something Course in Miracles says is that uh you're like if you are in distress or you are in if you're having like anytime you are lonely, anytime you are separated, anytime you're feeling like really shitty about yourself, you've just merely forgotten who and where and what you are. Like if you can remember, like the past is over, it can no longer touch me. if you can
Mhm.
if you can be reminded that you've always figured out like you cannot get it's like if I try to live in the future, you can't get from there to there from there. You got to get to there
Mhm.
from here. You're here. And
Mhm.
I think that like that recognition of this holy instance, like it's almost like if I can get really here, I can see how it expands outward both to the past and to the future of just like, ah, I've never
Mhm.
like and now we're getting real woo woo and like I really like it myself. But it really is like
Yeah.
like my question I love to ask people is like, um, whatever the thought is, who would you be if you didn't have that thought? You know?
Wow.
Who would you be without I have to be good, I have to be perfect, I have to be strong, I have to be
Mhm.
secure, I have to be sure. Who would you
Mhm.
be without that?
Yeah, and honestly, when we think kind of Enneagramming about it, like, if we think about, like,
Yes.
okay, we have this we've ultimately created the ultimate shield, right? Like, this, like,
Mm.
perfection is our shield against our most vulnerable self. It's the shield against who we would be without that thing, and so,
Mhm.
as we know, like, any shield, we're putting it up to protect ourselves from harm, right? Like, so, okay, my joy is how I prevent myself from feeling pain.
Mhm.
But it's also like it's the very thing that's preventing me from experiencing love for the depths of who I am, right? If I'm loved for this persona, if I'm loved for
Mhm.
this like shield of myself, then I'm
Mhm.
loved for the shell of myself. Like I'm not actually being
Mhm.
loved in the deepest core. And that's why so many of us have these relationships where we feel alone and we feel like, how can I be in this
Mhm.
relationship and still feel alone? It's like, well, you're getting love just for like what you tell them they get to love you for. You're getting love for like how you help them. You're getting love for how you take care of them or
Mhm.
how easy you are to get along with. But what if you let them love you for your difficulty? If you let them love
Mhm.
you in your pain or you let them love you in your weakness, like
Mhm.
that's where it's gonna integrate into your system. And it's for self-love too. Like if I only love myself when I'm happy, I don't love myself enough. Right? Like I don't love
Yes.
myself. It's not unconditional. It's completely conditional. But if I can love myself through the shield into, like, the little
Mhm.
gooey bits behind the shield that are
Mhm.
in pain, that are hurting, who wanna writhe, who threw a candlestick once because she was pissed, like,
Mhm.
she still deserves love. That version of her still deserves love, and, like, that
Mhm.
yeah, I think when we think about the Enneagram or any kind of coping mechanism, it's like, are we letting people love us beyond it, or are we
Mhm.
asking them to love us for this, like, tiny sliver of a shell of who we can be?
Mhm. The thing I remember one time I was sitting in a circle of people. Um, I think it was very much it was super churchy. I had actually started a house church, and it was like pretty like we had like 30 people. We were decently successful, and I was talking about how mad I was at our old church who like didn't have space for us. And my friend Travis looked at me and says like, Kevin, I know you hate to hear it, but you are best when you are soft. You are
Mm,
best when you are letting us know how frustrated you are and how mad you are, instead of thinking that you have to be strong and thinking you have to be righteous. And that's like, I
Mhm.
think my biggest problem for myself is like, I think I always have to be the guru, if you will, or I have to be the one who's enlightened and happy and in my
Mhm.
highest self all the time. And like, I
Mhm.
like being there. I enjoy being there. It's easy for me to be there. But it can ignore the reality of my body, and I can't do that.
Mhm.
That's what capitalism teaches us to do. It's just like, don't feel bad, just keep doing this thing and you'll feel better. I'm just like,
Mhm.
it's not like the body holds on to shit. And if you don't, what I learned for myself is if I don't let my body, if I don't let him feel whatever he's feeling, it doesn't matter if it's valid or not. Wh-
Mhm. Mhm.
a valid feeling, it's just like, does it exist? It is valid. Not to feel anything you want. And then you can also like get curious, like, what's causing this? Am I believing something that's untrue? And also,
Mhm.
right after, like, I think like we don't actually experience the peace that comes after it until we acknowledge it.
Mhm. Yeah. I think yeah, I wonder, my husband went to a retreat that Hillary McBride led, like, I think it's called a Ken retreat with everybody, and
Yeah.
when he came back, I was just frustrated one day. Like, he and I were at a coffee shop, and we were just I was frustrated, and I couldn't figure out why, and we were, like, walking to lunch, and he was like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "I honestly don't know. Like, I just feel frustration, and I don't let myself feel frustration. I feel so much
Mhm.
shame and guilt when I feel negative emotions." So I was kind of like I was wrestling with it, trying to figure it out, trying to solve it, and he was like, "Well, where do you feel it in your body?" And I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh," I immediately knew what it was. Like, the coffee shop was cold. He went outside and let himself feel the sun on his skin, and I was
Mhm.
jealous. I was
Mm.
jealous. I don't because I didn't give myself that same permission. I felt like I have to stay in here and, like, do this thing, push through
Mhm.
this difficulty, and you get to just go out there and, like, feel the sun on your skin. How
How dare
unfair.
you?
Yeah, but it's like he listened to his body. He let himself
Mhm.
have that moment of pleasure, and then, like, by him pointing me back to my body, I was like, "Oh, that's that simple." Like, and I can, like,
Yes.
just let myself like, yeah, I was jealous, like, poor like, oh, why did I think I had to suffer
Mm.
like that? That's not mine to
Isn't
carry.
Yes. And when we look at ourselves, like, there is a statue, like, in somewhere in Southeast Asia called the Buddha of, unbearable compassion, and
Mm,
it's got with oh, no, with the smile of unbearable compassion. It's just a statue of the Buddha just looking at just like,
mhm,
"Oh, it's okay." And that to me is like, for me, that is like the energy of, because I'm a woo-woo, I'm like, that's the
mhm,
Christ energy, that's the universe energy, that's the love, that's
mhm,
completion, that's spirit of that, of like the recognition of, why did I think I had to suffer? There's so
mhm,
much suffering that's going to happen. It's like pain is inevitable.
mhm,
There's gonna be pain in life because it sucks, and the world is a world. And there is so much of the suffering that I can choose to, it's not even bypassing it, it's just choosing to give it up. It's like,
yeah,
I think I have to suffer for some reason. Like, we were tricked. And somewhere in like the narrative is just like, I think I
mhm,
was taught that I deserve to suffer. And we
yeah.
don't.
No, we don't, and when we do, we can love ourselves there. We can just be like, "It's
Mhm.
okay. That hurts, and that's alright." And I
Yeah.
think so for so long, like I think I tried to bypass the pain, so therefore I was bypassing my compassion because it was like I was so fixing oriented. I'm like, "I'm gonna
Mhm.
solve this, I'm gonna fix this," and then, when I quit trying to fix it, which I'm not perfect at, some days I'm good at it, some days I'm not,
Mhm.
moment to moment, really, I can look at it and say, "Okay, we're not gonna fix you, we're just gonna feel you, and it's okay that you're
Mhm.
here." That's so much
Mhm.
easier.
Yeah. It's like, people, like, when I'm teaching meditation, people is like, "I'm just trying to, like, drop these thoughts or get rid of these thoughts." I'm like, "No, no, no. You can't. Thoughts are phenomena. They come out of nowhere, they go back to nowhere."
Mhm,
And so if you can meet whatever it is, whatever feeling or thought, with love and understanding, it will release you. That's what Byron Katie
mhm,
says about the work. It's just like, you meet every single thing, no matter what it is, no matter how petty or weird, or no matter how shameful you feel about it. you meet that with love and compassion, it will heal, like it will heal itself, because that's the
Mhm.
antidote. And then also you notice, like, I just think for myself, whenever something goes down, I just think, "Ugh, of course I would do that." And rather than like, "Oh, of course I would do that," like with like a mean tone, it's more like,
Mhm.
well, yes, of course. Like, you lived for 24 years hiding yourself and your feelings and your emotions while you were in the closet. You only really started getting honest about 5 years ago.
Mhm.
So, relatively speaking, in your life, you have less practice. So, of course, you
Mhm.
would slip up or go back or like fall into this old pattern. That's your pattern. And
Yeah.
what would you like to do next?
Yeah. And you have a lot of evidence that it worked for you, you know? So
Hmm.
then we're learning new evidence for ways that other things work for you, but there's some
Hmm.
evidence that it works.
That's the thing, too, is like, look at the data. Look what these, like,
Mhm.
what do these thoughts slash practices do for you? Does it make you feel
Mhm.
better? And that's literally it. And I think that your work, like, I remember like when I was first getting into it, like getting into Enneagram work, like yours was like very just like so clear and so delicious and helpful. So I've loved getting to watch you blossom. Also,
Mm.
before I want to talk about second book, what are we going in? What are we getting it on?
Yeah, so it's called the Enneagram Letters, and it's poems and essays to who you thought you had to be, and
This is what
just
you've been
like
doing on your Instagram. Oh my
yeah.
God. How dare you make me sob?
Oh, if I can make an 8 cry and tell me about it, that's all
Ugh.
that I can ask for.
Okay, sorry, keep going. I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, just like empathy letters, honestly, of just like I feel you, I see you, and to the part of all of us that feels I mean, because I think that's the thing with the Enneagram that I'm expanding into is, yes, we have a dominant type,
Hmm.
but also there's some part of in all of us that feels like we have to be all of these things, you know?
Hmm.
We all, to some degree, feel like we have to be easy to get along with and perfect and
Or at
help
least we should be. Like, I
yeah,
should be
we
this way.
should be. Exactly. Even if it's not like our actual coping mechanism, it is some messages. We're sent all of these messages from all corners of the earth, and so hopefully the letters and poems feel applicable to each type in a deep and connective way, but also to each of us that feels that we need to do each of these things.
I can't wait. I cannot wait
I-
for that. Because your first book was also very, like, first book was the honest, or is the Honest Enneagram.
Mhm.
Um, and that was also just a delicious treat. And now people get to have more of your good shit, Sarah Jane
Oh,
Case.
thanks. I'm excited about it. Yeah, I'm really, really thrilled to get to write this one.
I'm thrilled for you. I don't want to keep us past time, and I'm just thank you for hanging out with me today. Like, you're really making my whole day just real special.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is the most fun. Like getting to go to all these depths with you is awesome.
It's a delicious time. Will you tell humans on the internet where they can find your work, your books, etc.?
Yeah. So, um, if you're new to the Enneagram and you want to like read the descriptions, take a quiz or something, you can do that at my website, enneagramandcoffee.com. We have podcast Enneagram and Coffee, and then Instagram is my name, Sarah Jane Case, and we can hang out in any of those places.
Come and hang out, buy the book, The Honest Enneagram, wherever fine books are sold. Please patronize your local bookstores, please.
Yes, please.
That was my conversation with the fantastic Sarah Jane Case. If you want to follow her, please follow her across the internet at Sarah Jane Case, and also her Enneagram account, which is Enneagram and Coffee. Again, she's a just a lovely friend of mine. We got to spend a little time when we were in Asheville together one time. I just remembered that, and like it made my heart melt a little bit. So anyways, Sarah Jane, thank you so much for coming to hang out with me on the pod. I like you. I love you. I want some more of you. So go follow her, go get her book, The Honest Enneagram, and then get ready for her second book, which apparently is coming out, in the future. And if you like what you are seeing here, you can again become a supporting partner through Patreon. And when you join the Patreon, it's not just a way to support this podcast, but you're also helping facilitate and grow an online spiritual community called The Crowded Table, which is kind of the direction I'm taking that online space. We have monthly workshops. We have a book club going on right now. This month, we're reading Mary Magdalene Revealed, which is one of the most important books I ever read when I was in college. And then on October 21st, we're going to be doing a Zoom call with the author, Megan Watterson. So if that's appealing to you, go ahead and get your book on Kindle, Audible, from your local bookstore. And then join the crowded table at patreon.com/thekevingarcia. Maybe I should put here, patreon.com/thekevingarcia. And then we'll click add. Boom. There it is, patreon.com/thekevingarcia. See, y'all, we're learning in real time right now how to do this thing. But it's an amazing online community. The Discord channel is fire. I am absolutely I love these humans who are saying yes to a new way of being spiritual in the world. It's really cool. I'm just now noticing how busted my hair looks right now. I need to go run a comb through it. Anyways, who gives a shit? Who really does? Because if you're listening to this on the podcast, you're not seeing it, so it's fine. Anyways, yeah, like I said, join us for the full moon circle tonight. Join us on the 2nd and 4th weekend of every month for the crowded table gatherings here on YouTube, and on Facebook too, if you're over on Facebook. What else? Am I missing anything? I think that's everything. So till next time, y'all. If you haven't already, you should go buy my book. It's called Bad Theology Kills. I have my first copy ever right here. This is like the proof copy. Ugh. We've been through it together. But I love this book so much. You can get this at badtheologykills.com. It's over on my website. That's it. That's it, everyone. I love you. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. So till next time, take your meds, call your person, eat something delicious, shake your ass a little bit, move your body in a way that feels good. And, if you have trouble eating because you hate eating in the morning, sometimes a protein mix in water will do the trick. This is me telling on myself right now. Anyways, I love you all so much. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of A Tiny Revolution. I'll see you next week. Bye.